This is RPMMO Radio,
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
a podcast all about role-playing and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Strafe, and Kishmas.
Everybody f*** off. We need to go on a quick adventure. Greetings and welcome to RPMMO Radio. Thank you for joining us live every Saturday, 7 Central Time, twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio. This is our 31st episode, Cash Me Out, which will, of course, be nothing to do with that stupid little kid that says the Cash Me Outside. I was originally going to go with that, but I hate her so much, I don't even want to mention her. So, how's everybody doing tonight? I, of course, am Ashen Phoenix, and with me tonight is Jazz, Sib, and Strafe. Unfortunately, Kishmas can't be with us tonight because he is actually out fighting crime poorly.
He's playing hooky.
Yeah, or he's working. One of the two. I just assume fighting crime. It makes him sound cooler than he probably actually is.
You just gave him 3 options, so it's got to be one of the 3.
It's got to be one of them. Maybe he gets paid to fight crime. I don't know. I don't live his life for him.
He's really Batman. We just never knew.
Yeah,
He's 21. It's okay.
he's like Batman, like Chuck from that TV show Chuck, where all that stuff got put in that guy's head, but he still worked at like a Best Buy, but he was like a super spy CIA guy. He's like that, minus all the stuff that made that guy cool.
If that's the case, we should be expecting a visit from the NSA anytime.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure, like I've said, none of us actually listen to the show, so I'm pretty sure he won't hear any of this. And if he does, Strafe put me up to it. He made me do it. So, how's everybody doing tonight? We're doing all
pretty
right? Doing okay? Excited to be here. I know I am.
Totally excited.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now, you know. It's pretty good. Pretty good time doing the show. Yeah, definitely. It's been a good and shitty week all at the same time, but we'll get into that. First,
I agree.
All the fun stuff that, of course, as I said, appreciate everybody tuning in, watching us live, twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio every Saturday at 7 Central Time. If you listen to the podcast and you ever want to catch one of our shows live, we are, of course, to a call-in show, so you can go to rpmmoradio.com/discord. If you do that, you can join our Discord server. Just throw yourself in the caller waiting room, and if you've got something to say, tonight we're going to be talking not just about loot crates, but cash shops, things like that in general, especially given the fact that role players, if it's something shiny and neat, I unfortunately am very guilty of spending a lot of real life money in order to get something like that.
Totally.
You're not alone.
Yep, Sib, how much was that house you just bought?
Way too much.
I'm not saying a word.
Yeah, that was a top tier house. It was, what was that, 15,000 crowns in ESO, which I think comes out to about $5,487, something like. I may not have it exactly
Yeah, no.
right, but
I think ZeniMax would love your math, bro.
seriously, I'm sure they would. But shoot, even as it is, I think if you do it, is it like about 100 is about $1? Yeah, so it's still like it's quite a bit for a house. Because
I don't know.
Because
I don't know.
Wakacholo, she's really, really good at decorating, and whatever money she spent on that, I guarantee you she's going to get the fucking time played out of it. She loves to decorate, and she's very good at it. So
I'm OCD about it. Once I
Yeah.
start, it's hard for me to stop until I'm done.
it's not getting into the conversation too early. I will say she's gonna, for the money spent and the time spent that she will get out of that money, she's going to actually get a lot of time for an entertainment out of what they spent.
He is an
Which is-
exceptional decor artist in these games.
Yeah, she's like she's got the eye for it and the patience and the creativity. I'm like the guy that like she's the NFL player. I'm the guy that like looks at the guy playing the NFL and says, "Well, I can see where he just went wrong. I mean, I can't do that myself, but I can see that that's out of whack and that he should have done this instead." That's the difference between us. I don't have the patience to. I mean, I can decorate. I just not like she does. I do not have that time.
That it's just I don't know. I get addicted to it once I start. But I will say ESO has been a challenge and pretty frustrating just because they limit, and I understand why they limit items, but for a big freaking house, you can only have 600 items. It's like, I'm like sitting at 598 and I'm just like pissed
only like
because
5
there's so much more I want to do.
Stacked on top of each other can fit into it at a single time. The player thing is really, that's the worst.
Yeah, that's the other irritating thing. I know in EQ2, you didn't. I mean, I can't remember. I don't think
you could fit the entire server into a single house if you wanted to.
Yeah, and the limit was a lot higher, so it was really a lot of fun.
I don't think we ever found the limit.
Definitely not for
people.
For people, no. I mean,
see, and that's so frustrating.
I think there was that one. I don't remember who it was that passed away. It wasn't someone I knew very well, but in the community, they actually passed away in real life, and there was a vigil for them in someone's house, and there had to have been almost, I would say, 50 plus, 75 plus people in there in a house, and then you go to ESO, it's like max limit's 25 or 24.
Yeah,
on the
really
biggest
spoiled.
of big houses, and this one was like a 1-bedroom apartment in EQ2. It's weird how server limits like that.
I think over time they'll refine their system and probably open that up a little more, but I think this is their first initial go at it.
Yeah, it's not even been out a year. I think it's not quite been a year in ESO, or if it is, it's just coming up on it, give or take. Because I know when we came back to it in March, it had literally just come out, I think, in February. So yeah, that might have there might be coming up on a year of that. So EQ2 had, has a decade on them when it comes to housing updates. It's a little easy it's not really a fair comparison. But, so.
I will say also, one of the girls in our guild, our ladies, Alay, me and her both decorated the same house, the Hunding Palatine Palace.
It's a humdinger.
It was a humdinger. But she had the same issues I did with item count, but hers was very gorgeous. I mean, she decorated more outside, like put bedrooms on the balconies and stuff, which I love to see how people go about different projects.
How one space can be done so differently by different
so
people.
I will say hers was very, very neat last night when I got to go over and check it out.
Yeah.
We are lucky we got a lot of decorating artists in these games we play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always cool to see what they make, for sure.
For sure. Everywhere from the, like, it's like you can tell the difference between someone like Sib or the LA who she mentioned, or somebody that's like, well, my character lives very sparse because I only know how to place down the table and a chair and a fireplace, and that's I got bored, so that's how he lives now. He's a hermit.
I also, me and, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a total blank.
Nobody knows who they are, so just continue with the story.
Me and Strafe got to go look at.
Yeah, no one knows who that guy is.
Colocos, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. House.
Calico.
Oh,
like the kitty.
Because he's 3 colors.
I never got that.
I didn't get that either. But no, he did a really cool thing with his house too. Like, there's just so many ideas. I mean, it just, and you go to one person's house.
It'd be a shame if this was the housing. Housing
I'll
episode.
shut up now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there we go. Okay.
My bad. My bad.
It'd be a great discussion. We just got we got a lot.
Keep us honest.
We got a lot to get to because there's definitely plenty enough to talk about that.
Like I said, it's kind of an OCD thing. Once you get me started, it's hard for me to stop.
Stop.
I'm stopping.
There you go. All right. So anyway, you can always find us on iTunes, Android, Podbean, things like that. If you're watching us live, appreciate you giving us a little. I don't know, what is it, like a little? It's like a heart. All these systems pick one thing. It's either thumbs up or hearts. It's just pick something. It's confusing. But we are, of course, at 52 followers now, so we do definitely appreciate everybody that's following us. I know we got one. Actually, well, what's his name? Is it Wakachoto? Wakachoto, I think you already just did that, actually, so.
That would be my little brother.
Oh, hello. Oh, no wonder you were getting on to Strophe earlier. That makes a lot more sense. You're a saint of a brother. I'm sorry. There's just nothing we can do about your older brother. It's yes, you did a thing, and we do appreciate. We appreciate everybody that's followed us, both here and the podcast. Everybody for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
I would be careful with your sainthood. He does play a halfling.
Oh,
okay.
ouch.
So hold on. I've never actually gotten a chance to use the ban people thing. So let's see if we can ban our first person. No.
Don't you dare.
I'll allow it. We have to have somebody to make fun of for the entire show. That's
Can't
one of
be,
our listeners.
Can't be foot jealous, bro.
No. Yeah. Sorry. Just
Really?
Oh, they're the worst. Halflings. I mean, seriously. In all of literature, there's nothing worse that was ever created. Yeah. It's just awful. Ugh. Yay, let's take midgets. They always already walk funny. You know what would be better if they had hairy feet? That'd be good. Oh, and that they lived for hundreds of years. That's even better. Oh, now they're creepy. So anyway, what have we been doing in our roleplay? For a change, I'll actually go first on this one, because I did a thing.
What?
And then that thing got canceled, because apparently Steam this week in Elder Scrolls was not letting anybody log in for almost an entire day. So I had one thing planned for a guild to do an event, and then with that happening, I was like, well, there's like literally like half the number of people here than usual, and while I don't normally care about like how many people show up, I didn't want to waste a really, really, really good one that I had been thinking of and might have a continuation on, something else. So instead, deep within the farms of Halalu territory, somebody had unfortunately become possessed by a Daedra, and she struggled with this for months. And Dark Elves and Dunmere and ESO, being the kind-hearted, family-going people that they are, dumped her at an abbey, bound, gagged, and just prepared to be rid of. So I played as somebody that was possessed by a Daedra, and there was only literally like 3 people there, and I really don't mind doing something if it's if it's just me and like one other person doing something, and we both have fun. I'm good. I really am. I'm perfectly good with that. So the 4 or 5 of us just having this like kind of small scale role play as opposed to what we were gonna do was totally cool. Like we say with role play, sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches, and when literally half the people apparently have bought ESO through Steam, which, gonna say, maybe an extra layer of something that can go wrong is probably not the best place to purchase it, apparently. Maybe get it directly from the company. Just a thought. That's just me.
It is definitely a twitchy way to play it.
Yeah, because it's definitely it adds an extra layer of, oh shit, something went wrong. And I learned that with, I forget what when I bought The Witcher 3 digitally on Xbox. For some reason they had something like that. I mean, given that's not even an extra layer, that's just literally where it came from. But there was some weird online thing where like for 2 days people that bought it digitally couldn't play the game when it first came out. It was not fun. So she's bound, gagged, possessed. She was kind of unresponsive for a while as they were trying to figure out what was going on. They could sense the evil in her. Then she started speaking Daedric, which is already creepy, but to make it even better, she was speaking it backwards. So that
was her head spinning?
You know what's funny? You say that. I actually called the event pea soup.
Nice.
Like two of the people I think they were a little younger and they didn't quite get the reference right off the bat, but they definitely did later. It was a lot of fun. But so Dunmere, of course, being what they are, if you're weak enough to be possessed by a Daedra, they don't really have a lot of mercy. They don't do the whole Catholic Church thing where they try to exorcise the demons. They just burnt her alive instead. So
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Such sweet
people, but it was to them it was a mercy, And
Hey man, there's nothing wrong with nuking the site from orbit. Only
that's
way to be
right,
sure.
and that's literally what they did. And ironically, there might actually be some more roleplay that comes out of it, just because they're like, hey, maybe we should make sure this family doesn't have a problem with being possessed by Daedra. So might be playing an NPC farmers, and we'll just see how that goes. But it was just quick and dirty, and it was for the clergy people that were there. There was like 3 of them and only one ordinator that showed up at the last minute. So it was a lot of fun. Everybody seemed to have a good time.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quick, dirty. I think the entirety of it took less than an hour. But I like to do. I've been in my roleplay slump, and I really wanted to try to do something. And I finally got motivation. I don't know for what or what and what reason, but so I tried something, and it went fun. People had a good time. It might lead into more roleplay, which really that's all that matters, right? Just one thing leads to another.
As long as you're generating fun, people are having a good time, it's always a recipe for more roleplay to come.
As long as the drama stays in character, all is well. That's the trick of it sometimes. But all right, anybody else got something?
I'll go next.
Go for it.
Let's see. Did training on Monday. I have done a lot of just random RP with different guildies, meeting, new people in the servants, but I've had a lot of fun RP with Strafei and Jazzy's characters. Like last night I was up till 1 o'clock, which I'm never up till 1 o'clock.
It's a good
It
thing
was a
you
good
were off
roleplay.
today.
I know. But it was a lot of fun. We're just evolving different characters, and the relationship between Volley and oh my goodness, I am going to be. Thank you. Horrible on names tonight. It's like I'm an old lady or something. But yeah, Trath and Volley. It's just slow and fun, and it's interesting because I get to roll and see how things are going to turn out. And at one moment she might be ready to punch him right in the face, or the next moment kiss him on the cheek. So
it's a fine line, and it's highly entertaining.
But it's fun. So that's about all I've been up to. So next.
Well, I spent most of the week gone, so I was not even in game at all. I had the Steam problem. The first day I had to download it, so it took all day and night.
Yeah, it's
And
not really
then-
a patch where they just make you re-download the entire
Right,
freaking game.
guys, can we work on that, please?
Yeah, it's only
So-
20 plus gigs. What?
Yeah, it's only the whole damn game. That's fine. Anyway, so I had to download the whole game, and then when I finally got it downloaded, surprise, it wouldn't run. I was a little irate about that.
Wait, do you have it on Steam?
Yeah. on
Ah,
Steam.
you were one of those idiots. I mean, people that bought it through Steam.
Oh, that was nice.
I buy everything through Steam, so
That's the thing. It is usually a great platform, but
it is.
man,
and I've never, until I got ESO, I never had a single problem with any game I've ever bought through them, ever.
well, like all the single player ones are never a problem. It's something about that online component that can really fuck things up.
Yeah, I don't know what they did, but boy, howdy, did they do it.
And the whole ESO as a whole, this patch has really fucked up a lot of stuff. So I'm not
Yeah,
too surprised.
it's like,
I'm pretty sure
way
it
to
wasn't
break your game, guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Steam's fault, really. I'm fairly certain it was something Zoss
it's
did.
their lack of planning because they didn't take enough time, in my opinion, studying the game before they released it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, when you have it on test for a month and then you throw it live, you're probably going to have some issues.
Yeah. So yeah.
And you
that's
know, that was another thing why there wasn't a lot of RP going on, I think, is because
well, there
not
was an
just
entire
you,
day.
Jazz. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people that couldn't get in.
Yeah, now we have outfitting that you can make your outfits in Elder Scrolls, like the World of Warcraft. I forget what they call that, but as long as you know how to make it, you can actually use it as an outfit without physically crafting it.
Motifs.
But the problem is that it's highly expensive, and if you're not a crafter already, it's going to be problematic.
Mm. Yeah, you could still throw some
It's
pretty decent
annoying.
stuff together with the basics.
Oh
though.
yeah, I'm just saying that it's
And go out
stupidly
steal.
Well, yes,
It's
but
the
I was doing that
motifs.
already.
Yeah, no, and I know what they're called. In World of
Oh.
Warcraft, it's called something else. Their system is called something else.
Oh, well, oh,
Yeah.
I missed that part. Sorry.
Man,
I'm not sorry.
you don't even
Sorry,
listen,
not sorry.
you don't even listen to the show.
She's got a case of the sleepies tonight.
Yeah, I think we
No,
all do.
actually, I'm trying to get into Twitch. Twitch is being bad to me right now, so I'm like trying to get in there so I can actually interact with people.
Would
And
you
yeah,
say that it's twitchy?
being dumb. Can I just say dumb? Will dumb work? Okay, now you're just being annoying. Stop it.
So did you get to any role play eventually when you finally could play after 2 days of nothing, Jazz?
Yeah. Then we had fun. It was a great deal of fun. Once I could get into game, then it was yeah. So like she said, we had role play together, which was a lot of fun. And focused on character development for my Necro, which I'm still trying to get the hang of and get the lore down pat and understand how and what they are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's been interesting. And it's been a lot of fun because she has an accidental pet, sort of, and everybody gets to meet everybody. And it was a lot of fun to play and feel it all out because she's unlike a lot of my characters who are fairly pleasant, she is not. At all.
I would dare say she's a nasty sod.
Yes,
Anyway,
she's not
yeah.
a nice person at all. So,
I don't know where you get
Yeah.
the inspiration for that from.
mm-hmm.
I have to say, the only one of the comments that stuck with me last night was, he's definitely a boner.
Yeah, that was good.
It's the biggest boner of all time.
Well, he's a skeleton. So
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny.
I just like those old comics you see from what was it, the old 1950s comics with the Jokers reading the newspaper and the headlines like Joker pulls biggest boner of the decade, and it's doesn't mean quite what it does now. That I don't think that will ever be a
meant something
headline.
very different.
And then he was like, "I'll show them the boner of the year." It's like,
Mhm.
I don't think that's one of those things that translates into 50 years later.
Nope.
Definitely
I
not.
mean, what was the show that had the guy's name was Boner? Like that was his nickname. There was a
Yeah.
TV show, remember
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Showing
yes.
our age.
The Wonder Years.
No, it wasn't the
No, not the Wonder
it wasn't
Years.
the
It
Wonder
was
Years. Was it Charles in
Oh,
Charge or
God.
something like that? Or
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
His name was Boner. Yeah, I think it was like Charles in Charge or something. But anyway, so Strafe, I think you're the only one we haven't got to, right? Because I know you've been talked about a lot.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we did character development roleplay Friday night. It was pretty fun. The whole slow burn between Trath and Voli has been entertaining because you never know which way it's going to go. It's kind of chaotic.
Kiss on the
And
lips
of
or
course-
punch in the mouth.
And of
And
course, we got the development going with Jazz's Necromancer from my high elf being, an inquisitive high elf and casting a small divination spell to see what's going on with her supposed cursed ex-husband that follows her around, and outed him as a skeleton, and she flipped out, but it turned into good roleplay. So hey, it's
Yeah.
worth it.
It did.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
That's always good stuff. Yeah, especially when you can get that a little bit of character development going on there. So, all right. Well, good stuff, everybody. I mean, some more than others. I'll let everyone decide who was who.
It was Growing Pains too.
Growing Pains.
Yeah.
I was close. That was that
How do
same
you-
era.
How do you say that name in the chat? Wakachoto?
Wakachoto.
Wakachoto?
That would be
he's
pronounced
a-
Wakachoto.
Wakachoto. Thank you.
Wakachoto.
Yeah,
He
he's a
sounds like
Growing
he's going to
Pains.
be somebody from the upcoming Black Panther movie.
Can I just call him Wacko?
He was a halfling monk. He was highly entertaining. He used to be Gormal's buddy in EQ2.
Wakachoto. Wakatumi, baby. Well, yes, Growing Pains. Appreciate that.
Yes.
It's phonetic. You're phonetic. Phonetic isn't even spelled phonetically or said phonetically. It's a stupid, stupid word. So, all right. Before we get into our main topic, I think we've got a word from our sponsor. Oh, look at that! It's actually a returning sponsor. If I recall, we've actually he is a very entrepreneurial kind of guy. I think. Would you agree with that, Strafe? I mean, as entrepreneurs go, he's definitely got the more than the one business.
He's definitely all over the place.
Yeah,
He is diversified.
yeah, he's diversified. He's like the Elon Musk of trolls, I would say. So, without further ado, take it away, everybody.
This episode brought to you by Gormal's Troll House of Shiny Boxes. You ever heard about Gormal's Crab Shacks? Did you know it's about the shiny box store right around in the corner? Looking for that shiny goodie from that Dragon's Lair, but you too full of crab meats to actually go out and get it? Fear not, you can waddle on down the corner, buy one of me many shiny diver boxes for chance for dat loot for a little jingle. But don't believe me, just ask me happy customers like Mary Cats and Hot Jessicas.
Thanks, Gormal. I went down and picked up just one box and I got a brand new armored horse, complete with 3 dinner vouchers from Dire Fear's Crab Shack.
That's nothing, Mary Cat. I picked up 3 boxes, and not only did I get this fabulous tiara of luck, I also received a brand new flying troll carpet, an all-you-can-eat voucher at Dire Fear's Crab Shack, and a date with Gormal himself.
So come on down. I see you later, Hot Jessica. And get your fat loose today. Feed your bellies and feed your lazy.
Each Gormal Troll House Shiny's box is guaranteed to be used for something important at some point in the future. Results on rarity of items may vary and no refunds. Gormal's Troll House is not liable for any failure of enchantments on items, voucher expired dates, loss of experience, or player death as a result of prolonged loot use. Oh, man. You know what that makes me miss?
The game?
Joe's. No, I actually don't miss EQ2 whatsoever. Joe's Crab Shack, since they all closed down.
Never
Yeah.
been there.
No, it
Yeah,
was
they were a
so
fun place.
good. They were so good.
Yeah.
When they had all you could eat crab legs, oh man, we'd be sitting in there for like 2 hours just eating crab legs. It was the best.
It was a great night for crab legs, beer, and the game if they had it on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After a while, you've eaten crab legs so long, your fingers can get pruny. You can actually eat so much crab that your fingers prune.
Mm-hmm.
So, very good. And don't worry, Gormal. God, is there nothing more frustrating than a Windows 10 update? Everybody, I mean, come on, seriously. It's like it can't. They can build these things so that we can put stuff into like outer space with it, and yet they can't be like, oh, hey, someone's using me at this moment. Maybe I shouldn't shut everything off for a minor update.
As I was
I know.
tabbing, I started getting the notifications, and it was,
Yeah, I could tell you something like you were getting totally distracted on something.
So sorry about that again. That was my
Nah,
bad.
bro.
No.
Man, that's beyond your control. That shit happens. And
Hey, you know what? It's just like RP.
and I'll leave it to you.
Something always interrupts.
Mm-hmm.
That Gormal, man, he's all over the place.
That's
you gotta
Gormal.
admire a troll with ingenuity.
That's right. Him and Bomba should probably. I think they hang out. I've actually heard they hit the after hours scene pretty hardcore. A lot of drinking.
Oh, yeah.
A lot lot of womanizing. I mean, by womanizing, I mean they like actually eat women.
There's some large gossip about those too.
Yeah, yeah,
Part of it's true.
yeah, probably, especially the
I've
secret
heard-
love child. Yeah.
I've heard Bombas Pickle is pretty impressive.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I'm in a mood
Yikes.
tonight.
I just want everybody to know I had nothing to do with that for a change. It was a dick joke that did not come from me. So, all right.
I'm blushing.
Go ahead and get into the meat, potatoes, and pickles of this and talk about the cash shops and loot crates. There's actually, I know, as we already had someone say, oh, I'm so tired of hearing this, but they actually had a good reason because they've been in some chats where people, they just defend or rail against these things to the point of it's almost like politics to them. It's like, okay, first of all, it's loot crates. Probably calm down just a little bit. But there's so many different kinds. Like there's certain kinds like I'm total like what Battlefront 2 did, totally not okay with that. What a lot of others like Overwatch do, totally okay with that. So there's just so many different kinds. There's even player shops that like BDOs is awful, and others they're not bad, but they're not great either. So there's a whole web work of just bullshit that we're gonna try to untangle here. And you might be saying, well, why would you do this? You know, this is a roleplay podcast. Yeah, well, here's the deal. Show of hands of the four of us here, who has spent a stupid amount of money on cash shops?
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
think it's because we do role play, and
We
you
want the pretty stuff.
you want those nice houses to role play in. You want those nice outfits to role play in. You want the neat little like effects from
It's
the
that moment
mementos. Yeah.
You see that sweet mountain, you're like, I would look so cool going on
My
the
character.
Yeah,
recording
exactly.
that.
Well, and it's even worse because then you're like, and then you like think of the backstory of why you would have that mount, and you know, all this crazy stuff that goes along with it for role players. It definitely. I know we're not really the target because there's not enough of us to make it completely viable, and normies, I guess as you would call them, buy it too.
But as role players, if you can get that unique suit and make your character stand apart, that is a big hook on your purse string.
Is huge. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Can
will
I-
reference the spider armor from EQ2 from my old assassin.
Yeah. And I have made a lot on Xanus. I made a lot of unique outfits with certain things that nobody, especially once it moved on to the next expansion, nobody wore that stuff anymore. So I was totally unique all the time. Given I didn't have to buy that in a cash shop, I was able to get that in a game because that's how things used to be. But
You
what are you
went
going
the
to
smart
say?
route.
Say, Sib?
I wanted to just say the first line of what Cameron
Cameron Chan.
Cameron
or-
Chin said. He or she. I'm not for sure. But I'll say one thing and leave it at that. Or leave it there. I think that most conversations about loot boxes I've seen seem to focus on whether or not it's play to win.
Pay
But
to
what's
win.
important, or pay to win, yeah, I'm sorry. But what's important is whether or not it's fun. And I totally agree with that, because if you're having fun, you know,
Mhm.
it's your money. You're having fun with it. So I don't see what it's bad.
Yeah, and I can see there's a few different ways to take it. You know, okay, we'll go to loot crates versus a cash stores first. Clearly, I mean, the difference between the two of them, loot crate, you buy a thing, you don't know what's in that thing, and you get a random group or one thing out of them, and you may not even get what you want. Of course, the cash store, you see what it is, you know what it is, you buy it outright. You know, you might spend a little bit more for it, but you know for a fact of what you're getting, right? And I know, Strafe, we have two little news stories. And I know the one I had put up here was for Hawaii. When it comes to that, Hawaii apparently is the first state that is going to actually start jumping into this. And they've got 4 bills coming through, which I'll be honest, I don't know. The reason like the ESRB exists, the ESRB, a lot of people think is is connected to the government. It's actually not. ESRB and their ESRB rating system is self-governed by the gaming industry. It comes back from the time of Mortal Kombat and all that stuff, when everyone was like, listen, there's no rating system on this stuff. And the government was like, either you guys get your shit in order or we'll do it for you. And of course, the gaming industry was like, we definitely don't want the government involved in gaming, because we've seen what else they do, and they suck at everything and take everything and make it awful. So we're going to create a committee and self-regulate. And they've done very, very good, really, up until this point. I mean, like the games that come out, like the Grand Theft Autos and things like that, they're rated M for mature. You know, the ESRB goes through, they do what they're supposed to. Now, whether lawmakers are like, well, that game shouldn't exist, well, that's not really up for you to say. You don't get to decide, you know, what porn or things get on movie screens, nor any more than you should decide what's in a video game. You know, especially when it is rated M for mature, and there's so many video game places these days now that won't. If it's rated like that, I think it's 17 and under, you can't get it without your parent buying it. You know, they've managed to do that all on their own. But with this Loot Crate thing, they fumbled the ball a lot.
Definitely.
Because they came out and like, nope, we think it's perfectly fine. Everything's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. And now, because they didn't self-regulate or at least try to do the bare minimum, now the government's getting involved. And not just ours either. It's very easy to point at like America, like, hey, you know, but shoot, you can't even get some games down in Australia because their government totally doesn't let things in. Or really is not as the worst of it. But now Hawaii is the first to do it. And parts of this I don't necessarily completely disagree with. Maybe you do. If you do, call us up, rpmradio.com/Discord. Let us know what you think too. But some of the two of them they want to do is they want to require video game publishers to label their games with notices that it can on the packaging that it actually contains loot boxes, for one, which I don't know. You guys think that doesn't seem too unreasonable? Like, you're buying a game with loot boxes in it. It's, you know, like you're buying a game with boobs, or you're watching a movie that's got fantasy violence, or, you know, does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. And then the other one is to disclose the rates at which receiving each reward is for their system. So basically the percentages. Like, if you bought this, what is the percentage of this, and this, the rarity, and like what will you get? Again, I don't think that's so bad. I just wish that the government wasn't making them do it. Is that, you know, Stray, you back me up on that one? Is that one reasonable as well?
I think it's reasonable because these guys know this hasn't been addressed, and we're talking about producers and small game companies trying to find ways to monetize their game, to keep their company alive, and maximize profits on their product. And you're getting into this gray area with this new frontier. No one has dealt with it yet, and so with the backlash of Star Wars Battlefront 2, EA, which we all know they're pretty horrible handling the DLC. Anyway,
they really fucked the ball up on. They didn't just fumble the ball; they deflated it a little bit, and then went and played for the Patriots.
For sure. Ooh. For sure. And we're seeing this stuff evolve because it's happening now, and this is kind of a new frontier on it. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, you kind of know, you can actually Google up, you know, one-armed bandit percentages, but people still do it. But I think it'd be nice to be aware of it, so you're not just spending lots of money. I'm totally gonna get that sword, bro. You got 5% chance to get that sword in like 10 boxes. Good luck.
Yeah, I know that Tor did that. They said they put the percentages in there. I don't know if they still do it, but they did it originally.
They did that on their own. They didn't have
to. No one made them. They just did that, and I like that because I already knew I wasn't going to do it. But after seeing the percentages, I was like, now I really know I'm not going to do it. So,
and some people may still, you know, they'll roll the dice, so to speak. For me, a lot of it is I don't, you know, I like the idea that they can self-govern. Unfortunately, for a lot of things like this, especially, you know, and we all know. When it comes to governments and laws and regulations and stuff like that, technology, especially now, the way it's advancing, has always been so far behind the bell curve that most of the people, like, I mean, let's be honest. Have you seen pictures of your senators and your congressmen? You think they know how to pick up anything that wasn't Pac-Man in, like, the majority of them in the last 10 years?
It's the same issue as highways being built that are already obsolete with the population. It's the same idea. These guys are not current with what's going on.
They're always in the now, they don't think ahead. Right. And I just, in once they get into this stuff, once they get their, and I'm not talking Republicans, I'm not talking Democrats. When it comes to this stuff, both sides, especially of video games, neither side is good or intelligent or well-rounded when it comes to speaking of this. I listen to a lot of radio shows, I read a lot of news, and it doesn't matter what side it comes from. It's always pretty much wrong. When something happens, it's always video games' fault. Or if
It's
something
always an
doesn't
easy
happen,
scapegoat.
it's easy. It used to be cartoons back in the day, or Three Stooges. Back in the early days. That was the cause of violence. Those damn Stooges were teaching people to hit each other in the eyes with 2 fingers. But it's a good thing you had that hand put up there between your nose because it blocked it. Oh, we gotta regulate the Stooges.
It's not that Chucky needs to, have some therapy.
Right, or that your parent just needs to whoop your ass sometimes and say, hey, you know what? Maybe don't poke your sister in the eye. Maybe. So, I mean, personally, I think the labeling of a game, that it has loot boxes and putting the percentage rates in there, I think that's something the ESRB, I think if they had done that on their own, probably would have mitigated would have stopped this torrent before it even started. 2 other things they want to do and see, and now this is where I don't like when government gets involved in things because it really muddles it. One of the other ones is Hawaii wants to prohibit the sale of loot box games to consumers younger than 21 years of old, the gambling age in America for anybody outside. Which, oddly enough, we have a fair number of people outside the states that listen to this. I don't know how you found us, but we're glad you're here. Especially the Philippines, which is really baffling. But hello, Philippines.
That's pretty excellent.
Yeah, I know, it's really weird. And the legislation defines loot boxes as a randomized in-game reward that can be bought for real money, which, I mean, that's what I would call it too. So that one I don't like so much. I just, I get it. I get that it is a lot, in a lot of ways, this is like gambling, at least with the loot boxes. I just don't like them getting involved in it because once they, like I said, in my opinion, once they get involved in something, before you know it, they'll be like, well, no, we'll actually go ahead and allow loot boxes so long as we get taxes from it. Because that's why gambling exists.
Ah, yes. It'll be another luxury tax.
Because that's why casinos are a thing. And they weren't originally because, that's why, what is it? The difference between insurance that you buy for your car and your house and the mob, the insurance company pays taxes, which makes it okay. That's literally the difference. I mean, you're just buying protection money on stuff that you already own, and you're legally required to own it if you want to have those things. So that's really the only difference. Dwell on that one for a little while. So, and like I was saying too, this isn't just America's thing because both in November, UK and New Zealand, I knew there were 2 countries. I forgot what the second one was. New Zealand. Their officials and their, I don't know, whatever government those 2 countries, those weird, they're foreign. I don't know. I'm American. I mean, clearly it doesn't matter to me, except that they shot the Lord of the Rings in New Zealand, which is a beautiful country, and I would love to visit it. Also, Kiwis. They decided that it wasn't gambling. Loot does not fit their national statutory definition of gambling. So there was that as well. I don't. When it comes to loot crates, and then there's the different kinds of them. There's the kinds like EA had with, as you said, Strafe, Battlefront 2. That was a pay-to-win thing for me. Like, it gave you a definitive advantage.
They did the same thing in Battlefront 1 and Battlefield 1. If you wanted the good stuff, you were literally going to pay through the nose.
Yeah, in like even BDO, to bring it to a MMO, they say it's pay to convenience or pay for convenience, but really without buying certain things like the animals to loot for you and things like that, you'll never be as good as the people that have it. Yeah, the bank space, because you spend real world money to buy bank space. You do it. Everything in Black Desert Online has weight, like actual weight, kind of like EverQuest 1 used to have. The difference is you can spend real world money in Black Desert Online to increase the weight limit through two or three different items. And if you don't
give us more money, yeah,
right,
totally.
And there's no way to, and here's the difference for me. There's no way to get that without paying real world money. If you're able to get it, even with a lot of work, if you can get it through the game, I mean, I'm more okay with that. Am I out of line on that one? Or
No,
what
I
do you guys
agree.
think?
No, you're not.
No,
Because
I
hard
agree with
work
that.
wins and patience pays off. But the problem is when you hit a paywall and that's the only way, then you start having problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to
like
make sure that I'm not out on a limb on that one.
You're not. I would much rather
No.
work for something in a game for that cool loot or whatever it is than go, well, either you pay us or you're just stuck in this area and you can't ever progress past
Right.
this point.
And that's when, but what do you think? I mean, I've seen the argument that, Black Desert Online, it's not pay to win, it's pay for convenience. But
That's not the same. That's the same thing, though.
that's
you can
my
have,
opinion too.
like,
Yeah,
if you only have 10 hours a week to play.
a day. That'd
A
be
day.
nice.
I
wouldn't
wish.
it?
Yeah. If you only have 10 hours a week to play, and Bumbo over here goes ahead and spends $100 on crap that you can't afford to pay, he's going to get farther in the game than you are in the same amount of time, simply because he has more disposable cash than you do.
Yeah, and because in using the Black Desert Online, because he was able to buy the increased weight limits, the extra bank space, and in BDO's case, the little animals, what they'll do, I think you could have, if I remember right, you could have, I know because I bought this shit. I mean, I'm not saying I did it. I had the income. I bought this stuff. This is why I know it. I'm not just going off of what I read. I actually did buy all this stuff. Because it was convenient, and it was in its own way, it was pay to win. And I definitely, while I was out killing stuff, if you didn't have animals, you had to click on every individual thing that you killed, which if you played Black Desert Online would be groups of people in order to loot them and get all the stuff on them. As opposed to if I have 2 animals, which I've leveled up out and about, I would just run through the bodies and the animals would loot the stuff for me. I would just continue on my way killing. I never had to stop to do that, and I was able to, if I'm competing for kills on stuff, I'm able to jump ahead while they're sitting there clicking on everything. That, or they have to just skip over it, in which case I'm getting more money in the game and things to sell and resources than they are.
Yep.
It's definitely, I get that. In Black Desert, that's my opinion on Black Desert Online. It was a fun game. It's a beautiful game. It could not get away from its Asian roots, its Asian MMO roots, which almost all of them have that pay to win. It's much more accepted over in the China and Japan and a lot of those North Korea. Not a lot of people playing in North Korea. I think South Korea.
Yeah, probably not. South Korea, dear. Yes.
With the one landline they have in all of North Korea.
I don't think you'd want to play North Korea WoW Edition at all.
I don't think you would either. It'd just be every texture would just be Kim Jong-un's face on everything everywhere.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Glorious leader points.
That's right. The supreme leader.
If you give us, if you dedicate yourself 24% to the glorious leader, you will get 1 more ration of rice.
I saw this great picture.
Bonus for the week.
It was of that area. It was showing it was I forget what the game was. It was some online game. It was like World of Warcraft or something like that. And down in South Korea, all the little ping lights, throughout the country were on because all these, people in South Korea were playing it. But in the middle of the blacked out, nothing internet country that is North Korea, there was one lone glowing dot glowing in Pyongyang, or is it Pyongyang? Is that their capital?
I
Pyongyang.
think so.
Pyongyang. there was one little dot, and they made the joke, and apparently Kim Jong-un and his family are WoW players. Which would anybody really be surprised that, of course, that he would probably be does he not look like the penultimate, like, stereotypical gamer?
Oh yeah, totally.
The Herman Emperor's got to have his WoW, bro.
Right? Yeah. I mean, he's got. I could see him with his. Bring me more Cheetos, Mom.
Ashen gets assassinated.
Yeah.
I was about to
Great
say
knowing you, babe.
that was
I'll
that's
miss
a
you.
great threat when the guy who is of that amount of power is playing WoW with you and you grief him. He's like,
Oh my
"Don't worry,
God.
I will take care of you in real life." No, you won't, bro. Ha ha. He disappears.
Yeah, the guy's never seen from again. It's just.
Mhm.
That's kind of terrifying.
We don't know why his house just went into this sinkhole that appeared out of nowhere, and this strange crater-like substance is everywhere. I don't know what happened.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Kim Jong-un he sounds Cartman just seems to work for that fathead little weirdo.
He has the look of a disgruntled Blockbuster manager back in the day, if you remember that.
Yep.
He would totally be that manager.
With
Why are you here?
He's got the
why are you running our
douchebag,
videos?
that douchebag haircut, and been like, I'm the manager of Blockbuster, and this thing here was supposed to be back by 9 p.m. Looks like it's 9:02. We're gonna have to
Big
charge
problem
you
for
for that.
you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then his dad just comes out of the back. I'm Ronry. So
Oh,
very
jeez.
Ronry. I'm Ronry and sad and brew. That was a great movie. Puppet sex. So, the other, of course, is there's definitely like a predatory nature to some of this stuff too. Just like with all gambling. I mean, I'm a big proponent of individual, like I'm such a big proponent of it. I'm totally brainlocked on what it's called. Individual responsibility.
Totally.
You know, we're all responsible for our own actions in a lot of ways. And then there's sometimes where you kind of you struggle, like, you know, with addictions and things like that. I understand, you know, especially chemical addictions. I know we've gone over some of this stuff before, but when we were talking about stuff we want to talk to, Strafe wasn't around during that time, and that's why I'm talking instead of him all the time, because I'm a terrible host. But you know, the predatory nature of stuff, man. You want to go into that stuff a little bit when it comes to that?
Sure. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's one of those situations where, hey, man, we got these crates. It's got the cool stuff you need. And if you can only get it through them, and you see your friends doing it, and you don't got it, well, I mean, you're going to feel pressure to go get it because, hey, that's the only way you're going to advance. That's the only way it's going to make your life easier. And don't you want to be cool like everyone else? There's that element. There's also the
keeping
element
up with
of
the Joneses.
Yeah, keeping up the Joneses or whatever. You get the idea.
Yeah.
There's also the whole idea of, well, hey, man, if you pay us this extra stuff, you get to unlock this all the other part of the world you can't get to. And if you want to go there and have fun, well, you're going to have to pay us to the nose.
Yeah. And see, and part of me, because that's like the DLCs and, you know, expansions, which you can, you know, expansions they've never really considered, you know, that's not really like a cash store. That's just something that always has to come along, and it requires a lot of extra resources that we openly pay for, right? I mean, does that fall into that vein for you?
It doesn't really fall into it, but it falls into the whole pressure aspect.
Yeah.
And when you're playing, say you're a young gamer and you're playing these games with your buddies, and your buddy just picked up a T-21 battle rifle in whatever Battlefront you want to play. The only way to get it is to either buy it directly from the ESO or the EA store, or get loot crates, and your mom's purse just happens to be there. Hey, what's the harm?
Yeah,
Just put
especially
the
with
card
kids
numbers
that are
in.
stupid.
So, and of course, when you're preying on people that have that addictive personality, by doing that, you can almost bank and guarantee that some people, a percentage of the people playing your games, are going to spend money on it. I mean, I worked at a mobile studio that shall remain nameless, and they had stats on this, and they were kind of astounded, some of the dev team, that this lady spent so much money on coins and paying through paywalls just to keep playing her addiction.
Yep.
Wow.
And they knew they could guarantee they knew a percentage of it would pay it, and so they were just like, and they were kind of okay with it. And I'm like, wow, it's just kind of dirty.
Yeah, that's not right. So yeah, there's the targeting players of impatient, compulsive, people that are bored.
Oh yeah, and
there's.
And they're setting it up to do just that. They're wording it in just a way. Again, that whole thing I mentioned about how advertising will take your soul. They
the psychology behind it to make
it's completely horrible and predatory. And it's important to understand that they're also granting that you're going to have kids who are going to steal from their parents, and they know that.
Yeah,
and they're okay with that.
I mean, really, how many is that going to be, though? I mean,
a lot.
You think it is?
Oh, I have at least half a dozen people that I know, just myself, who've had to deal with that with their teenagers. So I know
my
that
friends
it's
must
a problem.
be way better parents than your friends. I'm kidding.
And my kids, if they had access, might try. But we've got that all locked down, so it's not even an option.
Yeah, and then there's that too. How many people they sign their kids up for these things, not knowing. Like, I'm a gamer, Jazz, you're a gamer, Sib, you're a gamer, Straffe, you're a gamer. If any one of us, some of us that have kids, Straffe, I know you don't have any, but you've got, relatives and things like that to do. And
I got a nephew, yeah.
Right, and you'd be like, like if they didn't know, like, hey, you'd be like, listen, dude, by the way, your credit card's attached to that. All your kid has to do is just click, yeah, I want to buy it, because you haven't set up any parental controls.
That's right.
Yep. I've had to have that conversation because they're like, how did he get my card number? I'm like, you put it in when you bought the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have access to that. Did you remove it? Well, no.
But
he doesn't know how to do that. He has friends that will tell him how. That's how he did it.
He's got Google. It's not hard. It's not even the old days. Okay, and I heard this on an IGN thing. All right, think of this before the internet. Okay, before the internet now, you want to know how to do something, you Google it, right?
Yeah.
It's literally that easy. You'll find like 15 videos on YouTube, a couple walkthroughs. You'll find plenty of ways to tell you how to do this. All right, now if I say this to each one of you, the original 1980s Nintendo, what would you do if you put the game in and it didn't work? How did you fix that?
Pull the cartridge out, blow on it, put it back in just at the corner, and then push it down so it catches the corner. This is my trick, and it always worked.
Right. There's that one. There's
You'd
the
have
blowing
to post
on
a forum. You'd have to post on a forum and wait for somebody to answer.
Or
that's the thing. 1980s. That didn't exist, but everybody...
Yes, it did.
No.
I can tell you that. Yes, it did.
Yeah, like four people knew it.
No, okay.
There was nobody I knew
who knew.
There was maybe for the elderly they knew that. Nobody in my area knew how to do that. That just passed along by itself.
Really?
Pre-internet.
Yeah, nobody knew about that.
The internet was not a thing in 1984 with a
I
bunch of 5-year-olds.
Well, 84. You said 80s. So
yeah, the 80s.
I was stuck.
When the Nintendo was a thing, from like 84 I think it came out in 84 to like I think it closed down in about the early 90s. But like that's a thing everybody learned pre-internet. Like the internet did. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Jazz. The internet existed then, but it was not the worldwide thing it is now.
Well, no, it was a lot smaller, and you had to go on.
I think the first
chat forums and find people to talk to. But there were there if you knew how to do it.
You're thinking the early 90s, Jazz, because like AOL didn't even exist until like 92 or 3.
The first walkthrough I ever got was in the
I'm talking
early 90s, and the dude had to print it out on a dot matrix printer so I could beat Star Control 2, and that was fantastic.
Because
it was all rumor and speculation, and I had the bonus. My mom, being a technician for Panasonic, she could clean all electronics, and it would work like a whiz. So I did have that trump card, but until like the early 90s, like you were on your own. You had to talk to your buddy. It was all rumor how to fix things.
Yeah, and like AOL started in 1985, but it didn't become a thing where they were passing it out until the late 90s in the early 2000s. Like you weren't getting those. Remember those AOL discs that everybody got 5,000 of in the mailbox?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That
Oh,
was
my
the late-
coasters.
Hated those.
Yeah, frisbees. I don't know how many of those things I threw.
Toasters for sure.
They got good distance, but you know that was the late 90s, early 2000s when the internet finally became a real thing. Before that, you had to do the Matthew Broderick from War Games, where you took the telephone and you put it on the telephone thingy that made the all the noises and stuff.
Baud modems.
Yeah,
yes.
the baud modems. You see that? More than
I guess because I was involved in all of that I forget that other people weren't. But
No,
I
hon.
was.
You were
I
like,
was in
You were literally the 1% at that point.
probably. But
You were
I
the
was part
internet
of that,
1%.
and that we were in chat rooms, and you called up with your VOD modem, and you waited to be connected, and then you were in this chat room with about 60 other people, and you were all talking at the same time. It was
We
Yeah.
now know that
Not
Jazz
even
is the
if I
babe from
remember
Weird
that.
Science.
Like the earliest I remember getting online was my neighbor who he had oil money. He had the shit, and it had to have been 91, 92, which that was the earliest the internet became
that
a
was
thing.
when AOL came around, and there were companies that were working actively, but there were ways to get on the internet into chat
Yeah.
rooms even before that.
Yeah,
and
it was and that's
I
what
was
this
part
was.
of that.
This was
89, 90, 91.
Yeah, and that was pre-AOL. But anyway, we're getting off. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that was before the internet was a huge thing. Like, you couldn't easily Google how to do that.
No, you
to
couldn't. It was
blow-
mostly word of mouth and who you
Like,
talked to.
I don't even remember, because when I had my Nintendo, I was 6. I was a 6-year-old when I had
God,
my
I'm
first
old.
Nintendo. And we all knew how to, when it stopped working, you would blow on it. And then
Oh yeah.
if that didn't work, you'd
Mhm.
also have to do the, like, get the moisture in there, like the
Oh,
hot,
dude.
put the hot breath
Which was
on it.
the worst possible thing
That's
to do.
the-
But it
Yeah, that was
worked. It worked every time until my mom was watering plants and the planter above my Nintendo, and she didn't realize water dripped from that plant.
Oh,
And,
no.
That was the end of that.
That was the end of that first. That was my first Nintendo. Yeah,
Mm.
of the 3 that I owned in my life.
So we now know Jazz is the babe from Weird Science, and she outed herself as knowing all this tech. And
Yeah,
Late
seriously. Yeah.
but yeah, to the predatory point, I mean, they are targeting a lot of lazy people that don't, and they know their society they're marketing to. A lot of people
Instant gratification.
my age and younger, they want instant gratification. They don't
Mhm.
want to wait. They don't want to work hard. They just want to get on there, do the cool thing, get the cool loot, save the babe till the dragon. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
So if you got a player base like that, and will pay through the nose, well, why wouldn't you not exploit that?
Exactly. And and if you've got if you got the disposable income, you got the disposable income. Now,
Yep.
when it becomes a problem is it's like the gambling. We see that we've got a casino, a great big Hard Rock Cherokee casino not 3-4 miles from us. And you can go in there anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are people in there that clearly should not be in there. They can't help themselves. It's what I mean. They find it. Yes, I give it. It's fun for them, but it's also harming them because they can't.
Yes.
They don't have the income to be in there doing that, and that's when
But there
it becomes
is
predatory.
right, and I agree with you, but also because I am a proponent of prohibition doesn't work.
Well, I
So
think there was a whole time period called Prohibition that kind of proved that too.
yes, but the whole
Bootleggers.
idea of gambling is wrong, therefore we must stop it. And I support controls. I support saying you only have a 1 in 10 chance of winning this really pretty shiny thing when you buy this. Most people aren't even going to care. I mean, if you how can I put this? Okay, I got a perfect example. I used to work in the casino, and I worked behind the cage, so I handled the money. And I had people who would come and They cashed their winnings. They took money out of their account. They did all of that. And it didn't matter. You'd hear people with them telling them the chances they had to win, and they would use up every last penny they had, and seriously had no way home to gamble, to get that flush. Even though they knew the house always wins, they're like, well, this is the casino that has the best odds.
The quote unquote best odds.
Right.
Yeah.
But the best odds are still in the negative, but you can't get them to understand that. So
what is that
it's the
called?
same problem with loot boxes.
Is that the I want to say it's Gambler's Paradox. It's not that. Where I've lost this many times. Just one more time. This has to be the big one. This one,
right?
That
well, you have people who say, I won $12,000 last week.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but how much did you invest before you won that $12,000? Well, what do you mean? How much between the last time you won and this time? How much did you spend?
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't that much.
Yeah.
The gambler's fallacy.
Yeah, and they really this is a sadly advertisers' knowledge of this. They are counting on that, and that was where my problem is with the loot boxes. Is not necessarily because your money, you're stupid enough to spend your rent money buying loot boxes. I really can't say I don't want it to be allowed because you're grown up.
Right.
But
and that's the thing.
My thing is they're not grown up. There are a lot of kids doing this, and that's where things need to be looked at.
And that's and that's the thing too. Like I'm with you. I again, personal responsibility. Even if you have maybe an addiction, you're still responsible on an individual level for yourself. Like I come like from the libertarian point of view. Like I would be perfectly good. Like legalize all drugs. If our society could be like, but if you choose to do them and you're strung out on coke and you're dying in the street, I'm going to have to walk over your body because you chose to be in the state you are.
You chose to do it.
Right. We're not at that state though. We're not that society. So that's why, obviously some things still have to be that. But I would be totally for, if that's what you choose to do, that's what you do. But we aren't those people, and we're not that advanced Star Trek civilization where personal responsibility and the betterment of all is at the sacrifice of ourself is a thing.
Would be nice, but yeah,
it
we're
would
not
be nice,
quite there.
but we're not quite the Jean-Luc Picards of that.
No.
And yeah, and the gambler's fallacy, to go, if anybody that's never heard of that, it's also known
Google
as
it.
Yeah, it's the Monte Carlo fallacy, or it's the fallacy of maturity of chances. It's the mistaken belief that if something happens more frequently than normal during a given period, it will happen less frequently in the future, which when it comes to odds and statistics is not a thing that exists. If you roll your 20-sided dice and you get a 1, the next time you roll that, you do not have an equal or better chance of not rolling a 1 the second time. It literally starts fresh every single time. And
you have the same odds to roll the same numbers every single time.
It's a 1 in 20
and
chance,
that's why,
no matter what.
Absolutely. It's astronomical in order to win.
Yeah.
Like they say, you win you have a better chance of being hit by lightning on a clear blue day twice than you do to win the lottery.
Yeah.
Once. So it's astronomically unlikely.
Yeah. Which, and if you're playing the lottery every week, like in California, like my grandparents did until the day they both died, they had the money. It was it was $20 a month. They knew what they did it, but
I probably
you can't win if you don't
myself.
play.
I buy a ticket. I get a ticket once a week, just because, like you said, can't hurt. And it's just a little bit of money, and I can afford it.
Oh, and
totally.
It's something they would do because it was California. They would go, this was my grandparents, so they would go out with my Aunt Mary Lou and my Uncle Bob, my Aunt Teresa. They're old because I have an Aunt Mary Lou, and they would buy their tickets there at the bowling alley, and they would, then they would go sit in the diner in the grease pit with the Pepsi sign that had those lines with the tiny little letters that have been up there since like 1958, that hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed on that thing is the price point, but the menu is still the same. It has been for the last 40 years. And it's the greasiest, nastiest grilled cheese sandwich you'll ever have, and it's the best thing you'll ever put in your mouth while you're there. It's awesome. I love being I was a bowling alley kid, as you can't tell. That's where I really got my video game start. Was one of the things I'm quoted as saying. It'll probably be on my grave. Can I have a quarter?
Hey, bro, that was me in the skating rinks in the
Right?
late 80s, early 90s, because
Right.
they had an arcade inside, and I was like, I'm totally playing Afterburner and Street Fighter 2.
That's right. We would go. Our local school would have the skating parties, and I would have skates on, and I may have did a couple laps, but I was in that damn gaming room kicking ass on Street Fighter 2 with Chun-Li.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's right.
Can I have a quarter?
That was between my mom and my grandma. That was my quote. Can I have a quarter? Because they both bowled. So if I had already tapped mom out, it was time to go on to grandma. If I tapped out grandma, it's time to go on to mom.
It's that scene in Stranger Things season 2 where they're scrambling for quarters in the very first episode. I was like, I remember it so well.
Oh, that's why I loved that show so much. It was so good. That's exactly
Absolute
how
love.
that was. So all right. But when it, like you were saying too, Jazz, with this, I'm never a fan of more government intervention on these things. You know, it just pretty much as you said. Like there's some things you need to rate, like like the 21-year-old age thing. That's basically just accepted now. I don't know when that started. I assume, but it's been that way since long before I was born, and I think you were born and probably your grandparents were born. It's just been forever at this point. It's just accepted law.
Yeah. And then, there's a lot of things about our culture that are going to change, but I don't really think that you can stop people from gambling who want to gamble, because that's silly. They're going to do it anyway.
It's the same
But
thing with smoking.
Right.
Or drinking.
We can, however, make sure that they understand what they're doing so that they don't have that excuse. And we can make sure that kids are not using their parents' money. There has to be a way in this digital life to document that, okay, my kid's 14, he's playing a game that's 18 only. Mine aren't, by the way, but I'm saying that I know people that do that.
Right.
And you should be able to say, okay, yeah, it's my kid. I say it's okay, bugger off.
Yeah.
But they also need to take some effort to make sure that your credit card information is safe, even from yourself, just in case you get hacked, just in case your kid steals your game.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff should be in place.
I agree, and it's personal responsibility. On your note, I mean, people are going to play it, they're going to play it regardless. I used to work at GameStop when I was early on in my working years, and I literally had a mom come up with a 7-8-year-old saying, hey, they won the latest, greatest Grand Theft Auto. And I had to explain to them what mature setting meant, what was in the game. And she looked at me deadpan and said, I don't care, he wants it. And I looked at that and I went, wow, you're mom of the year. So I definitely think it is parent responsibility on the hand of kids getting into these things. But you're always going to have those parents that just don't care. Like, whatever, it shuts them up, leaves me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I feel kind of bad because our boy does play the 18 or over games, and he started when he was probably 13.
But he also had me standing over. There was still games that he didn't play Grand Theft Auto because I didn't let him anywhere near that.
No,
game.
not
now
that
he
one.
did play
and
Call
I told
of, Call of Duty and things like that, but that was in a lot of ways. I understand those are fictionalized, but that's
mature games. But
yeah, like there's a difference between slapping some bitches around and run over a hooker with a car and some of the things that happen in Grand Theft Auto, as opposed to, we're much more open to seeing the horrors of war and things like that. And I know a lot of people say that the video games desensitize kids and stuff like that. And maybe that's true to a point, but I have a feeling seeing. Like, we've taken our son to see, we took him to see things like The Lone Survivor, American Sniper. We took him to see, what was the one he just
Lone Survivor, great
12
movie.
Strong.
12. We took him to see 12 Strong, which just came out, which was the 12 guys that first went in right after their first active mission against the Taliban and those guys after 9/11. and they were in there, didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They ended up riding horses on horseback. It was kind of a crazy story. But we always take him to see that. So when it comes to the military games, that have a real little bit more realistic feel to them, we've always let him play those because we also know that he understands the difference between that and in actually killing a human being is a terrible, terrible thing you never want to do. And we've made sure he always understands that.
You're being responsible and you're monitoring what he watches. And he can handle it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like playing Halo. You're fighting aliens. But even Halo does a good job at humanizing the aliens once you play the other side.
Yeah, some of them.
So there are cool games that do that and they make you think. They're real cerebral. But yeah, I mean, it's different than, hey, I'm going to run around and sack blue team. But you're not going to run over blue team and then go steal blue team's females and then run them over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in some of the social commentaries and Grand Theft Auto and I mean Rockstar. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fucking fan of Rockstar. I'm really looking forward to Red Dead Redemption 2 and stuff like that. There's nothing that that company can't do really anything wrong. But that doesn't mean their content is for every age and every age group and even every kid, because there's definitely some kids through our son we've met kids that are definitely not our son, and it's like they spend the night and they're not prepared for like the outside world. I don't know what their helicopter parents are doing to them, but we had one kid that he came over and he was going to play, and their mom was like, well, if we wanted them to go outside and play, right? And they were, how old were they, babe? They were probably like 8, 9 years old. Yeah, give or take.
I'd say that.
Old enough to be playing in the front yard by themselves or in the backyard by themselves. No. If they're playing in the front yard or the backyard, you need to be out there watching them. Yeah, how about no?
It was a little weird.
That kid's not allowed back at the house. That was the last time that kid was here because, no, we weren't doing that.
Ashley, can you imagine?
Oh my God, right?
Your buddies and your folks are like lurking around. No, hide by that tree, sweetie. You might get stuck, and you're like getting wailed on. And then you go to school, and it's like your mom won't let you outside, bro. It's like that would be horrible in our age.
Seriously. Well, and it was like when I was that age, let's see, we moved here to Oklahoma when I was 9. We got that house. So between the ages of 10 and 11, there's a place called Ray Harrell Nature Park. It was a nature park. It was within riding distance, about 1.5 miles away. We would ride down there. We would be gone all day. There's snakes. There's all sorts of the vines that we were swinging 20 feet over ravines, 30 feet over open air ravines. Like, it's a 30-foot drop. I know because I fell once. That's just how kids are. There's nothing wrong with that. Not to get off on a totally different tangent here, but things are not as bad as everybody thinks they are. In fact, the studies are showing kids are actually safer now and less likely to be kidnapped and hurt these days by complete strangers than they were back when we were kids in the 80s. You're actually safer now than you were then, but you wouldn't know that because, again, with the internet, I think the constant stream of hearing the worst that humanity has to offer 24 hours a day on your Facebook feed, on your Twitter feed.
We had that friend code. You had to stay with each other, and you always saw the lurkers. Like you saw them. You're like, dude, we're not going over there.
Yeah, or the the big kids.
Oh yeah, watch out for the big kids.
Watch out for the big
totally
kids.
Wail on us.
Yeah.
I know. I've been listening to a podcast. It's True Crime All the Time. I think it's Mike Ferguson and Mike Gibson, but they're great. And I will tell you, when I started listening to it, they do a lot of serial killers or mass killers or just, it's crazy. But there was a time between like 69, 70, up until like the mid 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked to hear how many, kids were kidnapped and killed through that time period. I was did you never heard about? Yeah, serial killers. And I'm like,
yeah, the world's much smaller now, though.
Yeah,
I mean, we have the internet now, so we hear news from all over the country, from all over the world, minutes after it happens,
as it's happening,
and so it's very different. And to look back on history and to read about.
Brian Gumble, if it didn't happen here, it didn't happen.
Right.
They would literally
People didn't realize what was happening. And we're safer now than we were then because we're aware. That doesn't necessarily mean anything more than that. But
But no, I commented to Ashen the other day. I was like, I did not realize how many, serial killers happen, or how many killings happened back then.
Yeah.
Because it's not something you heard
those
about.
things are strangely cyclical too. Like the assassinations of the 60s and 70s. That was, you had Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X, you had JFK. There was and a bunch of others as well. And like, when was the last time you in America anyway? How long has it been since there's been an assassination attempt of like major public figures? Because I mean, presidents, there's always that stuff too. But like a Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, they weren't political figures. They were political, but they weren't like elected officials. And that stuff it just kind of stopped.
And we are way off topic.
Yeah,
we are. So predatory gaming habits.
Yeah. So anyway, but that stuff is cyclical.
Like, holy crap, we are so
yeah,
that
stuff.
But I do enjoy our talks. It's a lot of good info.
And to cycle back, cycle back. We're gonna circle back. Anyway, so moving on to the next thing. And I actually don't want to move on to this part of it because it's just so bad on all of us. The amount of money that we as role players spend on this garbage. Is really kind of embarrassing in its own way. I mean, I get my entertainment out of it. I don't feel like I'm personally being ripped off from it either. It doesn't mean it's not a little embarrassing that I spent this much money on stuff that doesn't exist.
It's cheap entertainment, and
right?
Feel good while you're doing it,
and it is still cheaper than say a movie or going out to like Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know what. Dave and Buster's.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out there, and it kind of goes back to the gambling thing. When I was gambling, I could go spend $100 in 30 minutes. I can spend $100 in the game with, buying a house or something, and I will have months of enjoyment out of it. So
totally.
To me, it's still dangerous, but I get my money's worth, I feel like.
Yeah. And of course, it's also a little bit like, with like you were saying with like real gambling, like at a casino, you never have to stop. You stop when you run out of money. And even then, you can find some more money. You have
to stop at some point because you run out of money at some point.
Right. But in like a game like this with ESO, there actually is kind of a cap because there's so much created content you can actually buy before you're like, well, I've got it all. Unless you're playing one of those shitty mobile games on a phone, then you can go forever.
I literally have most of the outfits. So
yeah, I've got all the ones I want.
It's an addiction, and I know it's an addiction.
But
I'm jealous of that.
Like you said,
but how many of them do you use?
I use all of them in my various tunes. So I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment. Like she said, the houses that I've bought, the stuff that I've bought, I definitely get months of enjoyment out of it. And it's cheaper entertainment than, say, if I go to a movie every week with my husband, how much money are we going to spend? Realistically, after you think of
if you don't
have tickets and the food, and then going out to eat before that, and
well, Jazz, if you go to MoviePass.com for $10 a month, you too can see one movie as long as it's not an IMAX or a 3D movie per day.
Yeah, so well, that's all that's here.
Yeah, I know.
So
that's we actually do that. There's a thing called MoviePass. It used to be like $60 a month, but they dropped it down to 10, and you literally we go. You can see a movie every single day for $10 a month.
That's not bad.
No, it really isn't.
Find a good theater.
And it's what we like to do. We see movies. Yeah. That's what we do together.
Yeah.
So if we go see 2 movies a month, it's literally paid for itself. And we see about a movie a week now. Even like before, we would be like, movie. We kind of want to see it, but is it movie? It's not really worth seeing in a movie theater. We'll wait for Redbox. Now it's like, we've already spent our $10 this month, so let's go see it. you know,
I do think ESO does something clever with their loot box system. If you get the crap you don't really want, you can transmute it down to gems, and then you can spend those gems on stuff you wanted anyway.
In a lot of
there
places,
is that kind of thing.
Yeah, but and it's a lot of like Overwatch does that. Even my Dragon Ball Fighters does that. Of course, theirs isn't for real. Given it's not you can't use real life money in Dragon Ball Fighters, but you buy 10 little loot box things for cosmetic stuff, and if you get something that you already had, you get a little coin, and you get enough of those, and you can get in a loot box. But with like Overwatch does that same thing. If you get the same item you have, one argument I heard though is because and to go into, some people have compared it to playing cards like the Yu-Gi-Oh or old-fashioned baseball or Marvel cards back in the day, or Pokemon. The real world, you could buy them physically. Magic the Gathering, those kinds of things. You can buy them physically. Well, what's the difference between that and what you're doing digitally?
Well, eventually the game's going to go down, and you can't sell your cool outfit on eBay later on in life.
That's
so
the big difference. You have, with the cards, you have a physical copy, and those cards have a real world value. It may not be very much if you get a common card, but if you get one of those rare ones, you actually can sell that stuff. You can actually sell it back and get some of your money back, as opposed to these things where it's all digital, and what you bought, that's that. I used to think the same thing. I was like, it's pretty much the same thing, but really that subtle little difference kind of changes my perspective that it's not quite the same. That, and when you're buying those real world cards, if you get a duplicate, obviously the box that you bought it out doesn't know what you already have. But when you're buying these digital items and stuff out of a loot crate, it literally knows everything you've already purchased and already won. So is there really a point to it giving you a duplicate, or they could easily program it so that you'll never get a duplicate of anything to get that extra money, so that you always get something you didn't have before, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, I don't know, maybe this is just me too being, I'll put on my greedy capitalist hat here. Hold on. Okay. Greedy capitalist hat. If you did that, just by the odds of, like, say that you never got a repeat, so that you didn't, like you were saying, Straffe, how if you can cash those things that you got it already, it turns them into gems so that you can buy other stuff. If it didn't do that, and every time you open a crate, you got something you didn't have before,
that would be a cool system.
Eventually, you could actually spend enough money to get everything, right?
Right.
How many people do you think would be like, all right, so if I buy $200 worth of these, I'll be able to get it all, as opposed to, well, I'll do $20 and we'll just see what we get and then call it quits. I'm just thinking out loud here. This thought just kind of came to me.
I think it would increase buying loot boxes, but then, of course, then you would have to put out next month a whole new set of loot boxes to keep people from buying it all and not buying anymore. So you'd be constantly trying to throw content out to keep the money flowing in.
Which, not necessarily a bad thing for gamers either, And if you're bringing in that, if it really worked well and you're raking in the dough, you'd have the development team there to make, like, all right, guys, here's what you do. Make shit that these idiots want to buy.
Well, yeah. That would be a whole nother department in your dev team.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a thought. I was like, I wonder if they could do something like that.
Games or game companies ever realize that our peers would buy stuff like that and actually make a game, our peers would want to play and buy stuff, they'd make a fortune.
Yeah.
From us.
I think the only thing is there's just not enough compared to people that just like play a game to play a game. Like, you look at all the population of World of Warcraft, like, I don't know. What do you think the fraction? What do you think the percentage is of role players to a server population is? Maybe 1 to 2, 3, 4%.
I wouldn't even go that high. I'd say around 5%.
Yeah,
if that. I would actually assume it's more like 0.25 or 0.5. I don't think it's as much as people would like to believe. But when you throw in RPGers, so people who create a character,
a role play game.
Like a role, they play a role play game. They play ESO. They have a character that's to lore. Their name isn't Wigglemaster or whatever stupid thing these people come up with.
Big Dick,
and it's actually
Big Dick 69. Yeah.
Right. Like my husband, even though he doesn't usually role play with people, he makes role play characters, and then he plays the game, and he doesn't ever role play. So, is he a role player? By our definition, no. But in the scheme of things, that's what makes it 1%.
Right.
Because you've got all these people who play it for the lore and make a character, and they're RPing in their head. Their head canon is what makes them a role player.
Those people stared at us when we role playing live, and they're like, "Oh God, it's so cool, but I don't know how I can do it." And they just stare at us forever, and they're creepy.
They stare and watch in awe, and then they send you a tell that says, "That was so cool." Yeah.
Mouth breathing wall hangers. Sorry.
Mouth breathers.
But yeah, so that's I'm curious to see how that, because yeah, I mean we do spend it, like the housing, housing, pay for housing in games like ESO. There's a lot of them. Yes, all of them you can actually get with in-game cash, which is good. And I'm less hard on housing in a game like ESO, because you can use either one. If you can buy the same stuff with in-game gold that you can with real life money, it seems like a fair balance to me.
It's a nice balance and a compromise, and I think you serve both sides of the community. Those that want to work hard and those that want to say you're paying the sub and you're getting so many crowns. Well, you're still applying patience. You're eventually going to get your house. You're just going to get it a different way.
Yeah, it's just the ones where like you can literally, like the loot crates, which is like I'm more for stuff with the cash store. What was that? Sea of Thieves is getting ready to come out at the end of the month, and they already announced that they're gonna have like microtransactions and stuff like that. But you're going to know when you buy it, you're gonna know what you're getting. Like, you're not buying a loot crate that's like, what is that? Like some of the others are. It's not the gambling thing. You're buying it basically just off a cash shop. You see what you're getting, you buy what you want. Like, if you want the parrot, you get the parrot. You buy your parrot. That's that. You got your parrot. So that doesn't bother me so much, because it's just something about the loot crate thing. Not knowing what you may or may not get and stuff like that. It's just, that's where it really creeps into the gambling thing, and I think that's where a lot of things are getting away from.
You're pulling on that one-armed bandit, bro, when you go do that.
Yeah, and and when it's cosmetic, like Overwatch and stuff like that, even ESO, really, a lot of it's all cosmetic. Well, no, I can't say that. ESO is not all cosmetic. They have the experience scrolls and stuff like that, which does give you, given you can buy those on your own as well. But
all you can
still
eat
an
voucher
advance.
to Direfield's Crab Shack.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or you get it there. But, like Overwatch, it is purely cosmetic. Things that are purely 100% cosmetic, I've really got no problem with. Especially, well, okay, if the only way you can buy it is with money, that kind of sucks. But like an Overwatch, you can also get them through playing the game. Like, you level up, you do special events, you do dailies, and they'll give you loot crates for playing that you don't have to buy. So you can literally get what you want in a game like Overwatch and some of the others without having to spend a dime outside of the initial purchase of the game. And that I'm totally fine with. It's
smart.
Yeah, it's when you actually can get stuff that affects gameplay, like gives you an advantage, even if the advantage is experience scrolls, which most people are totally cool with experience scrolls. I really am too, but if I'm going to be consistent, that is an edge that you're getting over people that maybe don't have that disposable income.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
And then especially if you're patient like I am and you wait for a double experience weekend and then you pop that other 100% scroll on top of that, you can get somewhere really fucking fast.
Trolling hard. I love it.
That's right. Yeah, and the microtransactions, that's really more of the cash store thing. It's the outfits and things like that.
But if you do that with the XP scrolls, what does it matter to somebody else? That's what I don't get. What is it? Because,
go ahead.
if I'm doing that and say I'm leveling, my character fast, but then you come along and you're like, I'm just leveling my character. What does it matter? They're both going to end up at the same place.
They will. One's just going to get. It's that whole slippery slope argument, And with experience scrolls may not be the best thing. Like the stuff.
Yeah, I don't have such a hard time about that at all.
I'm just saying,
if they offer They
Now, if
offer
it
like
was
real time
PvP stuff,
armor and
then
things
I
like that.
like
Yeah.
if it was PvP stuff, then I would be a little, I'd be on the opposite side
Well,
of
and that
this
just
boat.
shows too how far this has already ingrained itself, because there was a time that even like not even like 10 years ago, if you did this back in the original EverQuest or at the start of World of Warcraft and things like that, if you could spend real money to get double experience scrolls and stuff like that years ago, people would have raged over that. But now,
Oh, yeah.
and now I'm just saying for the sake of argument, if I'm going to be consistent, that would technically be a part of a pay to win thing, because you're able to buy that where maybe other people cannot. I don't actually have a problem with it. In fact, I utilize it myself. So I mean, I understand somewhat of my hypocrisy here, but that
Imagine buying that rare drop piece for your freaking epic quest in EQ1.
right.
How much rage
And
that would
see it
cause.
now, that's true pay to win, which they have some of those Asian servers. That experience scrolls are a little bit on the edge there for me. But
Yeah, I think those are I don't have a problem with people giving themselves an edge with something that they buy in that sense, because like Stray, when he first started playing ESO with me, he didn't have a sub. So he was leveling a lot slower than I was.
right.
But he's still going to get there.
It's just going to take you a long time.
Going to take him a little bit longer than it is me. So I slowed down and I made sure that I didn't use any potions so that we could level together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the problem with that as much as I do like armor that is good in game, that's better than what I can get in game, and you just pay for it with your disposable income and I have to work for it. That's where I draw the line. That's where when the balance comes, like you said, discretionary income makes a difference in the game itself,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a problem.
Yeah. And it's, I'm just, and I understand what you're saying too, Sib. It's just what does eventually all roads are going to, but you could, and this is the extreme example of, because mobile games don't really count into this, but like those mobile games where, we played, what was that, Clash of Clans, Sib?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could technically you could get everything you wanted in that game eventually, but there's people that have dropped tens of thousands of dollars into a game like that because it sped things up.
Yeah.
And that right there is an action that's paid, that is a pay to win. Now, given it's a totally different model, the game, going into it, that's exactly what that fucking game is all about. I mean, that's what almost all those stupid mobile games are all about, is that they make it fun and free to start with, and you're like, oh, this is super cool, it'll never get bad, and then you hit one point and you're like, maybe a couple bucks here and there.
Premium and monetization.
Yeah. I, however, have no problem with those things. I might throw a couple bucks if they've given me several hours of fun. I might throw a couple bucks their way just for like the, hey, thanks, and enjoy it, and then move on with my life. But those are a totally different beast than, say, MMOs, because those are definitely that's something that's going to flare up. I think it's going to work for a long time, and then it's going to start to die out once people start getting tired of it. Because I forget what they say the profits are on things like the Candy Crush, those Kings games. I mean, it's multiple hundreds of millions of dollars of one,
it is.
of $1 to $5 to $10 to $20 transactions and things like that. I mean, those things make so much damn money.
It's going to be the oversaturation of video games like Atari did.
Yeah,
I think that's the way it's going to go. I hope so, because some of these mobile games are getting kind of ridiculous.
What was it? Ubisoft.
Yeah,
they recently came out with their report on what they made and why they're going into these games of service, which is like MMO Lite. The games of service, for anyone not aware, is the Destiny 1, Destiny 2, upcoming Anthem. I forget the Tom Clancy's one that they did that I played for a while that happened in New York. Just games that continue on even after the fact, and always give you a reason and give you updates and give you reasons to keep paying. If they make a single player game or a basic game like that, like their Assassin's Creed Origins or something like that. You know, they sell a whole bunch of them. Then the next year they sell some more. You know, it goes down a certain percentage, but they'll make maybe a 13% profit on what they put into it. They'll get 13%. You know, they'll make that back, and then they'll get 13% on top of that. Whereas they released their money report on their games of service, and it went from 13% profit over the lifespan of the game up to, I think it was 53%, 50 or 57%.
Wow.
And that's why so many of these games of service are coming out and now starting to be a thing. That, you know, they're like Anthem,
right, but they're going
BioWare.
to kill themselves.
Right,
they're going to kill themselves.
Well, and it's the nature of video games as too. You know, look at the MMO market. Jeez, you wanna show how badly, you know, they flared up. You know, EverQuest was successful for the 3D thing. Then a few of them came out. Then the juggernaut that was World of Warcraft appeared on the scene.
SWG.
Yeah, Star Wars Galaxies was really good, but nothing, you know, World of Warcraft blew it up. And after World of Warcraft, you know, what is it, you know, the 2-year, 3-year development cycle, so many of them came out and they failed miserably.
Yep,
so many of,
true.
you know, they flared up. Matrix Online was a fun game, flared out. City of Heroes, although some would argue that actually was not the fault of the player base because there were tons of players. It was just NCSoft is a bunch of dicks. But, you know, and now look how last year we didn't have a single AAA MMO release. Not one. And honestly, I don't even think the AA or the single A MMO release scene was all that great either. We were down to the B squad last year. This year, we might have a couple that we went over in an earlier episode, but, you know, the Ashes of Creation, Pantheon, although I have absolutely no faith in that game, it'll be anything but a steaming pile of shit given the creators behind it.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But that's just me. I'll give it a chance, and I'll if there's a beta or if depending on the model, I'll give it a chance. I'll try it. I'll try any MMO out. I just don't have a lot of hope for it. And right now with video games, it's the Battle Royale. PUBG did it right. You know, they weren't the first to do it, but they did it well and they did it right. And now every game coming out over the next few years, they're all announcing a Battle Royale mode of 50, you know, of like 100 players versus all the other 100 players.
That's how typically it goes. Even if you're first to market, doesn't mean you're going to be the guy. Typically, the second one that comes out with your kind of style is going to make the bank.
Yeah. You know, back in the day.
Because they improve on it.
That's right. And the very first side-scrolling, you know, people don't think much of it now, but back in the day, Super Mario Brothers on the Nintendo was groundbreaking. A game where you went side-scrolling like that, you know, and continued where it wasn't just one screen of, like, you know, the Pac-Man screen and stuff like that.
The good old days.
That was, and then what happened after that? All those side-scroll, you know, eventually you get Sonic, you get all the other Marios that came out after that. You know, and then you had Legend of Zelda, which was that top-down thing where, you know, you played like that, and then you ended up, that's where you get your Dragon Quests and your Final Fantasies, and Final Fantasy was its own thing, where the Japanese RPG there, and all that stuff happens in MMOs in things like this with the cash shops and loot stores. This is going to be the same thing. Somebody's made a lot of bank on this, and eventually it's going to burn itself out. You know, it won't last forever. It can't last forever. Hopefully, it starts to burn out before government gets involved in video game franchise to begin with. Because if they start, you know, and I'm not coming up with this on my own. I've heard a lot of podcasts, a lot of people from IGN and stuff like that, and others. You don't want government in the business of governing content in your video games any more than you would want them governing the content in your movies or your TV
or
shows
books or
your
anything
books.
else.
Right?
They do not handle it well.
No, you know, there's been a few governments throughout the history of time that tried to determine what you could and couldn't put in books. It doesn't end well.
No.
Also burning massive amounts of other books? Oh, yes.
Yes, it doesn't end well at all.
I'm just saying, Fräulein, it does not always go the way you think it will once these things start out. You know.
It's not good, Kinder.
That's right. Schultz! Hogan's Heroes for any of those, if you in the 50 or 60-year-old range, I guess. I don't know why I know Hogan's Heroes.
I know nothing.
You know nothing. Yeah, that was long before Jon Snow knew nothing, too, by the way. Totally ripped off. I'm just calling it now. Jon Snow's just a fraud. Oh, which, by the way, congratulations, J.R.R. Martin fans. He just announced that the next book will, again, be delayed, and he still doesn't know when it's going to be.
Oh.
Pretty sure he's not going to make it.
And I definitely think the monetization is the start of that decline.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it declines and becomes something better. We can only hope.
Yeah, and here's the it keeps popping in my head, but I've not said it once out loud. Here's the other problem and the reason why this shit keeps coming up with the cash stores and the loot crates. When I started video games, when I started buying my first NES, when you bought the Super Nintendo, the GameCube, the Wii, the Xbox, the PlayStation, all those games have been almost consistently $60. Games today still are $60. And the money, $60 went a hell of a lot further 30 years ago in the 80s and the 90s than it does today. And yet, for some reason, games are still at the exact same price point, which is why this stuff is coming about.
Yeah, exactly. We learned about that in grad school because you literally can't make a return on your game. Even if it's like the best game you've ever put out. It's super popular. Let's say Mass Effect 2 and 3, for instance. But you can't make a return back on just $60. So you have to find other ways to do it.
Which is where DLC and things like... And like, I'm not completely against DLC stuff. Especially when you... Like The Witcher 3. The DLC in The Witcher 3 were damn near another video game. You know... Excuse me, I got the hiccups all of a sudden.
Totally.
But the quality of those DLCs was no less than that of the main game. Shorter, sure, but you're also only paying $15 a piece. You know, then the base game was there, but you were paying. You know, it was on. And honestly, some of those stories were just as good as anything in the actual thing, in the actual the game itself. And DLC,
they did that with Mass Effect 3 as well,
right?
It was a nice side adventure, and it was well worth the content.
Was that the Shadow Broker? Was that the third one that they did?
That was one of them.
Yeah, that was a good one. I loved the Shadow Broker storyline. It was fantastic. Totally worth every cent I paid for it. It was really good. Then I got to the ending of Mass Effect 3 and a little disappointed. But hey, we had a drop. Oh.
Yeah, I haven't even played it. It's that terrible.
It actually is not that bad. Believe it or not, if you enjoyed the first Mass Effects, it's a fun Mass Effect game. It's not as groundbreaking and story driven, or no, it's not as groundbreaking like story wise as the original trilogy, and it won't be because they're not making any more for the foreseeable future.
The talk for me and my other dev buddies is they rushed that to market too quick.
Big time.
That's what it's suffering from.
And that's what a lot of games are suffering from, is they rush them and they're not finishing the content before they release it because the guys behind the desk who are making the financial decisions just want their money back. They don't care if the game matters. And
we call those producers.
Yes.
The suits.
My friend from grad school had a funny name for him. He called them producers, and I thought that was horrible until I got later on. I was like, oh, he was right.
Wait, he calls them what now? Say it again.
Producers.
Producers.
Now, that being said,
that's fantastic.
I totally missed it the first time. I was like, it sounds like you just said producer again. What?
I thought he said produce. Like produce.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't. Are they lettuce heads? Is that the joke?
Now, that being said, I do have some good producer buddies that are not completely evil, and they will bring you food and stuff while you're working. But you got those other level of producers that are all about the numbers.
It's like having a good supervisor versus a shitty supervisor is basically what that is, yeah.
You've got to have people who care, or it's just going to be the same dribble every time. And they'll keep making less and less money. On top of the fact, I mean, on a very purely statistical and financial level, discretionary income hasn't changed in 25 years. It's actually gone backwards. So they're in a really rough place because you can't make a profit when there's no discretionary income.
Yeah, when you don't have extra cash on hand. Yeah,
you just can't.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. So if when I was saying about the $60, if we don't want these things, if we don't want loot crates and cash stores and stuff like that, you got to be prepared to pay $100 or so for your game. I mean, if you're going off of the inflation from the 80s and 90s up to today, you're going to go from about a $60 game to about a $100 game. If I'm doing my math right in my head,
easily,
it's about that much. Which is why you also get things. That's where all these stupid collector's edition things come from. Is because they're trying to like, all right, can we give them, could we spend an extra $5 in some stupid magazines and art books and things like that? Maybe add the soundtrack, which we've already got developed, and just stamp it onto a CD and throw it in a sleeve and charge them an extra $25. That's where that stuff comes from. It's not because it's actually a collector's edition and you're collecting anything. It's because they're trying to make a little bit of extra cash off the initial purchase. And it's worked. I've gotten some awesome statues out of it. We have Darth Malgus. We have...
Yeah, same here.
The
problem is, a lot of these companies, they pass the cost on to their dev team. You have a lot of these big companies, KOF, EA, that will literally lay off their whole dev team after each project because they can't.
They'll close entire fucking studios. They won't lay off the team. They'll close the damn studio down.
But a lot of, I remember I had a producer at the mobile studio I worked for, and he literally told me, he's like, you don't want to be that guy working for months and months on assets, only to be laid off once the big name title comes out. Because you're expendable, and the company's got to survive, and you're not on that survivability list. And
that's not going into the weeds of game making, but we're at the end of the episode, so this has not really been a role play centric episode, and so hopefully you guys are cool with that. But it's still something it's important, and it affects role play, and it affects the MMOs that we play, that we role play in. And I think sometimes it's important, I know we're an RP show, but it's not just going to always be about, slash emote. Sometimes it's going to be about the things that affect the way we're able to role play in the games in which we do this stuff. So if this isn't your cup of tea, you know what? That's cool. We'll catch you on the next episode. Hopefully you still enjoy the conversation and all that stuff. But just know that there's only so much we can talk about when it comes to certain role play things. So we have to branch out if we want to keep doing this. There's going to have to be a few branches. We're going to have to branch out from the tree a little bit and sometimes go into the weeds of stuff. But hopefully we can keep that entertaining.
So I think it's important to know. And even I spend like $20 to $40 between pay periods on these games because hey, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, there was Sib and I don't know about the rest of you, like when we're playing like ESO or back when I was in EverQuest, when they have those rare chances where it's like, well, crowns are 50% off, I'll throw 25 or $50 at it. I don't even need anything at the moment, but because I'm saving myself money in the future. Like I'll have that in the bank. And when something does come out that I want, I'm already going to have that there.
Dang, I can get that fat loot for later.
Get that fat loot.
And I've done that. I've definitely done that. When they have half off, I go and I just buy crowns because I'm getting so much.
Because you're for half the price of what you would usually spend. You're getting double. You spend $25, and what you would get for $25, you're getting $50 worth. So and of course it works. And it works. It works on us, and because especially if I wasn't role playing, I don't know that I would do that because I wouldn't give a shit what I looked like. But because I role play, I kind of do. And I know even non-role players do it because I keep doing it. And if you really think about it too, it doesn't really cost them much to do that stuff because what are they really? They're not losing a physical item. It's just digital. They're losing data. They've already got it made, so what does it really matter? It doesn't really cost them much to do that.
You gotta look cool, man, even if you're a raider or role player.
Yes, you gotta look cool. That's so bad.
Yeah, definitely. But so anyway, that's kind of we'll start wrapping up here. That's kind of where we're at. Anybody have any final things they want to get out about this? I mean, I know we covered it real well, but it's such a broad freaking topic, and there are so many aspects. I know. I actually wanted to read the rest of what Cameron Chan had been saying. Sib had read part of it about the gambling and hey, it's fun and all that stuff. But they also, I told them I would read the rest of it because they can't call it in because they've got other obligations, and apparently church is more important than our show. Whatever, All right, if you say
Easy,
so.
bro.
It is.
I mean, just saying, if you miss our show, you don't get struck by lightning.
I will say, Ashen, and just for you, I skipped out on a movie night at my church to come here and blitzed
I
over here.
appreciate
But I did
it.
make an appearance. I was like, hey, you sticking around for the movie? It's like, no, dude, I got a podcast. Got to get. They're like, what?
What were they watching?
They're watching Up.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's the worst.
And then, of course, a
That's
few
the
of my...
worst 5 minutes of a movie ever.
No.
Oh,
guys
it
are
just
age-
not
breaks your,
as wonderful.
it breaks your. Oh, no, I'm
Okay,
saying it's
it
the worst.
does
Yes,
break
that's
it.
true.
Yeah.
Heart. I saw that and I'm
Yeah.
like, I came here to laugh, not cry.
But then it has
After
Doug.
5 fucking minutes. Why am I?
It's got Doug. Squirrel.
Squirrel.
Squirrel!
I just
You're
met
my-
you and I already love you.
Yeah.
I hid under your porch because I love you.
But anyway, from Cameron Chan, if you buy a movie ticket and you're gambling that your time will be rewarded, and most of the time people walk away with 2 hours showing going, hey, that was fun, and not movie theaters. Sorry, the way it's not written badly, but the way it's scrolled on this giant fucking window in Discord, it makes it hard to go to the next line. Learn to write. No, I'm just kidding. Movie theaters should just offer all the movies for free as long as I buy one ticket. In certain markets, pay to win is considered all right, and it's not appealing to a player. And if it's not appealing to a player, then that player goes anywhere else and finds something else that's more appealing. The bottom line, as I see it, you don't need it. We know that's how you see it. You literally wrote this. You don't need to put that in there, Cameron. When you're listening to this later, save yourself some words. Just teasing you. The bottom line is,
Throw at him.
has always been vote with your wallet, but that phrase seems to get warped into implying so don't buy that. But it doesn't. But it really means some people will buy it. It's okay if you don't. You should buy what you do like, which is true. The whole vote with your wallet thing is kind of. It can be. It's kind of like it's like boycotting things. Like I'm Trader Joe's. I actually love Trader Joe's, but let's say for instance Trader Joe's was like, yeah, we only serve meat that's been crueltied with it. We don't sell cruelty free meat. We only sell cruelty meat. It's always been abused. It was horrible conditions.
Oh my God.
Sitting in its own filth.
Cattle car.
And then I never shop at Trader Joe's, and I'm like, you know what? I'm boycotting Trader Joe's. Well, you never shop there to begin with. You're not really boycotting them. You're just continuing not existing to them already. It doesn't. Which Trader Joe's is actually really good. And I'm pretty sure they're the opposite of that.
I like Trader Joe's.
Yeah, they're good. Man, their coffee is awesome.
Mhm.
And their mango, dried mango is the best.
Dry mangoes. Yep.
Anyway, so that's a couple of paid advertisements for Trader Joe's. Joe's Crab Shack, which doesn't even exist, but it's a show for Joe. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, in the end, it's going to be a necessary evil for some time to come, because these companies, I mean, whether we like it or not, they're a company. They're here. They don't make these games out of the kindness of their heart. They're here because they're a company and they're making a product to try to make money. And right now the way to do that is to, some of it is perfectly cool, like cash shops where you at least know what you're getting, and some of this shit's a little shady to me. The loot crates and stuff like that. It definitely gets on the shady side of, like Jazz was saying, advertisement and psychological manipulation in a lot of ways.
We're still in the Wild West of this going on, so I know it's going to change.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, unfortunately, when it comes to gaming, probably next 50, 100 years, it's gonna be the Wild West for that entire. How long did the Wild West the Wild West?
That was deep.
About
right?
100 years, bro. Yeah.
Hell, I'm just saying, like literally, like how long was the Wild West like that before it got civilized and before it
About 80 years.
right? So let's see, if you count like just modern, yeah, if you start from 2000 when this like online, because you really got to start from online gaming, because before online gaming you couldn't do this shit. Obviously, there'd be no way to do it. So I don't know, about 2080 we'll have this all figured out.
Sounds about right.
Congratulations, guys. Only 42 more years to go. We'll be there. All right. Well, go ahead and start.
The thoughts and opinions expressed
not
by
that one.
RP
That's
MMO Radio are
horrible.
just that.
I can't even edit that out now. That's all right.
I think you did get a good point of showing both sides early on the episode, Ashton, which
Yeah.
is nice, because some games they do it, but they are conscious of other players. So it was nice to hear both sides instead of just us bashing on loot crates.
Yeah, and we're always trying to represent each side of everything, which will be really fun when eventually we get into why you shouldn't talk politics in your guild chat.
Oh boy!
That's going to be a fun one, because we're going to have to talk
Story.
politics. But that one will not be this week. Next week, I think Kishmis will return, triumphant from battling the Joker and Harley Quinn, I assume. And we're
Totally.
going to go into the dark side of roleplay. Like, we'll see. He's going to... You were born in the dark. Or what was it? No, you merely adopted the dark while I was born to it, molded by it. So we're gonna go into that. That's what Kishmis will be writing up for us, hopefully, because he did say he was gonna be here, right? I'm not announcing this too soon.
Yeah, I think he said
No,
it.
he
Sure he
did.
said he'd be here
He
next
said,
week.
yeah.
I don't know. But if not, we'll find something else. So join us next week for that. As for tonight, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, on twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio every Saturday, 7 Central Time. Follow us there, or iTunes. If you want to leave us an iTunes review, we do appreciate that. Give us a little star, even if you don't write something out. It goes a long way towards getting us out on all the other podcasts. And, of course, I want to thank all the others with me, Jazz, Sib, Strafay, even Kishmis, even though he couldn't make it tonight.
Thank you.
I, of course,
Bye.
am Ashen
Rock and roll,
Phoenix.
guys.
And tune in next time when we'll see how many halflings can be stuffed into a single loot crate. Next time on RP MMO Radio. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, folks.
Night.
The thoughts and opinions of RP MMO Radio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/huskybythegeek to hear all his great rock covers of video game music and original sounds.